Thank you so much. Yes, please. Good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible and my presentation is visible to everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, yes, I am Ankita Jain, and today I'm going to take session on problem identification and formulation. Also, the art of writing a review of literature. So, in this FDP training program on step-by-step guide to write a good research paper, we are going to have like total 10 sessions are there in this workshop, and we are going to talk about number of activities, number of I must say the steps which should be taken while we are writing a good research paper. There are so many things which we need to focus on when we are going or thinking or planning to write a research paper. So there are so many steps we have to take, and there should be a way of writing each part of the research paper. So I must say that this training and development program are going to help you a lot while you are going to write a paper. Maybe you may be already a researcher, right? Might be writing some papers or already have written some papers. You must be some papers maybe in working like in a like must be some working papers. But still, every time we listen to someone or we attend some training program or do any activity, always it gives us some different or new knowledge, and it talks about something different or something maybe relevant which you must be thinking about. You may be having some doubts or you may be having some questions in your mind about that particular part. Everybody have some uh, speciality in some areas, and obviously we are not god, so we cannot be good at each and everything. So maybe that part can be learned in a better way from this FDP. So, as we have two parts of this particular session, that one is problem identification, and also the another one is art of writing a review of literature. So, I'll be starting with the first one. Before that, I would like to also mention that when we are talking about a good research paper, so every research paper has some sequence, a step by step, as we are talking about. So, there are some steps. First of all, I'm just talking about the pattern of a research paper. So whenever we look at a research paper, it starts with the abstract. As such, abstract should be written in the last, once the paper is done, because it is talking about the whole paper, what is the gist of that particular paper. So it is going to talk about it, but still, as we already know, that it should be written in the last one. Whenever we see a paper, it starts with abstract, which gives an overview about that particular paper, what is it is going to talk about, what methodology it has been followed, what is what is the title of the paper, and what is it is all about. So first is abstract. Second one, the first thing which actually start the paper, that is introduction. The chapter first one is introduction. Either the same pattern we follow in this research thesis also, right? So first one is introduction, second one is review of literature, third one is research methodology, which includes research design, sample size, sample type, sampling methods, tools for data analysis, tools for data collection. There are different things which are mentioned in the research methodology. Sometimes we write objectives and hypotheses in the research methodology chapters most of the time, but if there are some people who makes a different chapter of it. After that, results and interpretation. I'm talking about data analysis and interpretation, whatever the testing we are doing or statistical tools we are applying. Then, after that, the next step comes as findings and discussion. And the last one is conclusion. Hmm. So, basically, these are the steps in the research paper. So, today I'm not going to talk about introduction. I am directly jumping to the next one, that is review of literature. So in this workshop, we are not only talking about the review of literature, but as I have mentioned, there are different parts. about the hypothesis, objectives designing. Then in the research method, we have to talk about the our data tools for data collection, that is questionnaire design. We are going to talk about for the data analysis. We are going to talk about the application of Excel, application of SPSS. Also, we are going to talk about research design and sampling apart from hypothesis. Then reference management, and then there is one more important thing that is we should know is understanding ethical issues in plagiarism. Also, there is one more, that writing research paper or report. So these are the things, and the last one comes as conclusion. So all these points we are going to cover. So I'm starting with my title, that is problem identification and formulation. So the problem identification. So we are going to talk about what is a problem, what we are talking, what does it mean, what is problem, research problem, right? So it can be a question which needs to be answered. It can be a concept which researcher doesn't know and that researcher wants to understand. It may be any kind of crisis that needs to be resolved. It may be a situation that needs to be changed. Then it may be a reason where you are not having a satisfaction. You want to know what is the reason and why it is not being done. So you are not satisfied with that. So you want the answer for that. So research problem can be anything which needs to be resolved. We need to come out with the solution. Identification of research problem. How do you identify? There is one more thing I would like to mention, that there is a sequence of writing a literature review, which I'll be telling you later slides. But once we write the literature review, we try to find out what is literature. Literature means the previous things, previous studies which are done. So whenever we read that, so we see what is not done. We also identify with that. So we call it research gap. When we go for a research gap, we also have some questions in our mind. So that is research question or research problem. That comes with a, like, we have some questions in our mind. So it can be, we can call it research problem. Once the research problem is done, like we are done with the sorted with the problems, like what exactly we need to find out, we frame the objectives, that is your objective to solve. Now you have the problem, you have to set the objective to resolve it, right? And out of those objectives only we go for hypothesis development. So this is how we go step by step. So here we are talking about the research problem. So first of all, we need to identify the research problem. So we have to do review of literature first. Then we have to specify the research purpose, that is research objective, right? As I have told you, once we are done with the literature, we'll get the gap, research gap, and after identifying that gap, we have to specify a research purpose or research objectives. Once the objectives are done, we have to collect the data. Data can be a primary data or can be a secondary data on which study is your study is needs to be done. Then after doing that data collection, you have to analyze and interpret the results so that you can come out with the you can come out with the results. You can come out with the results. So ultimately, you have to think about it, that what kind of test you are going to apply. It can be, it can be anything, right? Like Excel, through MOS, through R, through SPSS, whatever your convenient way of doing the research, you can go ahead. So basically, ultimately, you have to think about it. What is the right way or your convenient way of doing the analysis? Once analysis is done, you have to evaluate the research. For example, once the analysis is done, you have to find out, you have to write the findings. What did you find? What did you discuss? Ultimately, you have to report and evaluate that research. So what is your conclusion? Everything you need to find out. So then only you can go for identification. After doing such steps, you have to identify a research problem. That may be a indication for doing that. Now, selection of a research problem. Number one, Is the problem relevant and important? You need to, first of all, you need to see what happens. Sometimes we have something in our mind, okay, that this can be the topic, this can be a title, and I want to identify this. But here the research problem doesn't define itself. Okay, we have to see what, which kind of problem it is, and is that problem relevant to our title or thing which we are talking about, or we are going to have the research. So is the problem relevant and important? First of all, sometimes we have a just a normal idea about something. Then we have to see, does the subject area suits to his interest? Means, like, are we really interested in doing this kind of research in this particular subject or area or a stream or a field, you can say. Also, you need to see one more thing, that does it contain originality and creativeness? See, we are sitting in a very small space of this world and thinking that what we are thinking is original and new, maybe innovative. You are thinking you are having an innovative idea, it is full of creativity, but you never know, in the whole world already somebody has already been, gone through this particular process, think about it, and have done lots of research on it. So nowadays we are having internet, we can search it and find out that whether it is done or not, in this area research has been done or not. So it also helps, like internet also helps you in finding all this. But still, you should always try to know that your idea, your title, your work should be original and with the creativity. Now, does the problem requires extension of knowledge? Again, sometimes you think that you are teaching some subject or you have read about something, and because of that you think that you have enough knowledge about that particular thing, and it doesn't need more knowledge. But it never happens. Knowledge never ends. You have to keep searching on it, because every day the ideas, the thinking, the creativity, the criticisms, and lots of many things are happening on each and everything. So the people are doing research every day and coming out with the new concepts, new ideas about that particular thing. So whenever you are thinking about something, you should know what is already currently existing in the world related to that. So that problem actually requires, does actually, do you have enough knowledge, or if still it requires any extension of it? Then, steps in formulation of a research problem. Whenever we are now we are talking about the formulation, where we were identifying, now here we are formulating. So number one, first you have to understand or identify the field of your study or research. Then you have to specify the topic. See, you cannot study everything, so you have to narrow down your research. Once that is done, you have to assess the objectives, you have to make some, then you have to assess, then you have to finally formulate or make the final objectives. Then you have to raise the questions, whether are these proper, is this requiring any knowledge, in addition to this you want any change in this, any corrections are required, anything, any addition may be required. So that you have to find out. Then next part which we are talking about is review of literature. Already I have told you number of things about review of literature mentioning in this, but still the name says review of literature. So literature means what is already has been done, what is already existing. Maybe some studies, maybe some articles, maybe some research papers, maybe some news, anything which is already there. People have done studies in terms of theses, their projects, or anything which has been already done. So, and we are reviewing those literatures, those studies which are already done, for the purpose of getting the idea about the previous concepts, and so that we can go ahead for the purpose of doing more and more. So, what is a review of literature? So the review of literature is the summary of all the reviews from various literatures related to the current study carried out by a researcher. So, what we are currently planning to study about something, and it is what a review of literature is, what summary of those reviews means. For example, I am downloading one paper or taking one paper or looking at one thesis or research paper into a magazine or anywhere, and I'm coming out with the summary of it because I'm trying to understand what that person, excuse me, what that person, that researcher has done. Now, second one, it helps to discover what is already known about the research problem and what more has to be done. See, as I have told you, research, whenever we are doing a review of literature, it also gives us idea about what is done, also what is not done, what has not been done till now. Okay, so this also gives us idea about what can be done, right? So ultimately, through this, after doing research, review of literature, we can also go for doing, a new study. It gives us a clear point of view of it. Then the material gathered in the literature review should be included as the part of research data, since it influences the problem and research design. It can use to compare the results and finding for the current study. Excuse me. Mm. Okay. So we were talking about whenever we are, collecting the data, secondary data, previous existing data, that is literature review, it also includes as a part of research, right? So it also influences your research problem, research design, and also helps you to find or compare the previous results with the current study. As I have mentioned one thing, that there is one thing, the results and interpretation chapter, that comes after research methodology. After that, there is one chapter, findings and discussion. So when it comes to discussion, we have to see what our study is saying and what is the current study. So we have to discuss, we have to compare the results. Okay. Now, next one is definition. A literature review is an assessment of the body of research that addresses a research question. Ultimately, it is what? It talks about the research, right? Okay. And which also leads to research question. And also, it is an organized written presentation of what has been published on a particular topic by a researcher, also published by different researchers or scholars. So these are the definitions of the literature, which is already the published material, you can say, is the literature. There are various resources of literature review. It can be magazines, it can be newspaper, electronic database, books, journals, conference papers, theses, encyclopedia, reports. See, there are various websites which are providing lots of research work. Like even it is very easy to search on the Google and get the research papers which are already published. Also, you can use Google Scholar. There are so many other websites from where you can get the data. There are some data which is directly free of cost, accessible, but there are some papers which we have to pay and get the research papers. Okay. Apart from this, there is one more thing, that there are so many websites who exclusively which are having the thesis. Indian theses are, you can find it on Shodhganga as well, where you can directly see different topics which are related to your title topic, and you can search it and you can get the various theses on the same pattern. You can search those theses and find out what is not done, what they have done, and how you would identify. I'm going to tell you. Apart from this, government websites which are having reports, the websites of various banks or other the official websites, where you can get the data of the all the companies, their reports, and other important information, you can get it. Now, so I was going to talk about one more thing, that is, like, if you are reading or finding out some thesis or research paper, how can you, it can be more helpful to you, or scrutinizing or finding out your title, or understanding what objective should be taken. So let me tell you, One more thing that, yes, there is one thing that you can check out the abstract, what is done out of literature review, what you can see the research objectives, but they have already research gap and research objective, you can see, but that has been done in that study. But after conclusion, there is one point, that is future research scope. The scope for the future research or future research scope is the one heading which comes after the conclusion, or the part of the conclusion, you can say that everybody cannot do everything what they were having in their mind. So something is always left. Okay. And that person may be thinking to do in a next study or what is not done. So whenever we are writing some limitations, so we write that we do not have enough time to conclude or study that particular topic. So the people or researchers, left with something, so they write it in the future research scope, that this has not been done, or this thing also can be explored, I must say. So whenever you are studying any research paper or thesis, you must go to this section and check out what is left. That will give you more precise answer to your objective and what should be done, basically. Okay, what can be written, what can be your research question, what can be the area of your research, that idea can be taken. So, writing the research scope is very much important, even whenever you are pursuing or doing any research. In the end, you have to see that I was planning to do this. But obviously, maybe there are something which is left. You can write in the future research scope so that other scholars can also refer to that and they can get the idea what they can do. Now, characteristics. A good review of literature must be comprehensive. It must have a detailed idea about the study. It should include up to date references. Okay. See, there are some studies which are providing even 1980s what has been done. But nowadays, I must say that because the things has changed, the era has changed, technology advancement and everything, these things has changed the view of everything or perspective of everything, you can say. So you should always try to get the recent data. Recent studies must be taken into the consideration. You can also go back, or you can start from the beginning and you can come to the present one, the current one, the current literatures and references. But yes, still, you should always include the current ones. That is very much important. Even there are some guides and scholars, they are, just focusing on this. Let's just take the data of last 5 years, last 10 years. That's enough, because when the topic, that the thing has started, that was having a different form. Now it is in the different shape. So you have to consider the current references. Then it should be systematic. Literature should be written in a proper format. I'll be telling you that also. So it should be a very systematic way. It should be free from the biases. See, sometimes what we see, that we do that I am liking this studies, that is why I'm taking the literature from this one. It should not be done. Whatever you think, whether those studies are maybe like you are thinking the same way, maybe different from the your choice, but it all should be considered. It should be free from the biases. It should not be a choice. It should be what is right should be taken. It should be well written. It should be in the form of sum of it parts. Means it might be possible that you might be writing in the parts where study is having, different variables or themes. It should be clearly searched and selected. As I have told you, you should know how to search the data and how you should select which is the right one, which should be considered. So that is very much important. Then accurate references should be given in the review. Accurate references means, see, this is very much important, that because we already know that a plagiarism is happening, people are copying the data and taking the data. That is why universities are getting being very restricted. They are checking the data through the different softwares and references. If you are not mentioning the names, that or obviously you are stealing somebody's work, right? So if you are taking somebody's work, do cite it. Citations are very much important. In text, citations are very much important. That whenever you are, taking data from somebody's research paper, thesis, articles from anywhere, to mention their name. Don't just copy the data, try to write in your own words. So that is important. Purpose, why it should be done. Number one, it helps to identify what is already known about the research problem. As I have told you, whenever you do study on the previous literature, so let you know it lets you know basically that what already has been done in this area. So what is already existing, that should not be taken. That can increase your knowledge, but you should understand what is already done. Then it helps to build on previous knowledge. Means whenever you read, see, the person who is reading lot, who are reading novels, news, understand, like reading or looking at the, or watching the televisions for the news and everything, or using their mobile phone for reading the news or any current affairs or something, so always they have a good knowledge, a good vocabulary. I must say that you should also study more and more study, which will give you more knowledge about the studies which are done, and it will give you deep idea about your research study also. You will have the clarification, you will get a new view about your study. So that's again is important to understand. Many published research studies contain recommendation for the future research. As I have told you, the studies are carrying the future research scope, or I must say recommendations for the future research, from which we can get the idea for the new research study, which gives us idea about what already has been done and what is the scope, which is what is left, which can be explored. It makes researcher know what research has already been done in a particular area, so as to avoid duplication. As I have told you again, that we should not do the same thing. We have to research something so that thing should be original, it should not be duplicate, it should not be copied. Otherwise, what is the meaning of doing that, the thing which is already done? Okay, then it is necessary to narrow the problem to be studied. So research review of literature basically helps us to understand a broad perspective about the title and understanding the exact problem, what needs to be studied. How to write a review literature? So you can write your review of literature using one of the following approach. So there can be various ways, but there are two widely and mostly used approaches. One is chronological order. You can, as I was telling you, that you should use the literature of the current years, right? So sometimes what happens, we are taking data from the beginning till the end. For example, 1990 it started, and now we are in 2024, and we have taken data for last 30 years or more than that, 34 years or something. But first of all, it is of no use taking data for that back. Still, you are taking, that's not the problem. You should write in a particular order. The chronological order is the best one. That from the current study to the like oldest to the newest, or newest to the oldest. First, we should try to write it in the descending order, means from the current ones till the last one. Means people can get the idea about the study, what is in the current state it is. So you can write data from the 2024, then 2023, 22, 21 backward, right? Sometimes people are writing from previous years like 1991, 92, 93 or something like that. But basically chronological is, you can you have to arrange it chronologically. It can be ascending or descending, but descending is the like newest to the oldest. You should always try to write. There is a second point which can have two types of part, and be telling you. One is thematic. Thematic means on the basis of sub parts of your study. For example, you are having 2 3 variables, so you can classify your literature in 2 3 parts. Okay. Second can be, it can be theme based on different perspective. For example, global perspective, international perspective. Then it can be a perspective as per the country perspective, like an Indian perspective or something like this. Then if you are narrowing down your study to the state or something, so you can also see what studies has been that done already in that state. Means it can be wise, decade wise, it can be a time wise, it can be like theme wise, it can be perspective wise, any of the theme or chronological way you can follow for writing a review of literature. Even within the themes you can also use chronological order. For example, you have taken one theme, for example Indian perspective, and in that again you are using the chronological order. So this kind of work should be done, which gives you to understand that how many studies has been done about in which time period. There is one more thing I have seen that it can be done. For example, you are having some demographics, and you I'm just giving the example, any variable you are talking about. For example, I'm talking about the gender or age, for like identifying the customer satisfaction and connecting it with the gender. So I have to see how many studies has been done on customer satisfaction. Then how many authors out of those are focusing on the gender or age which I am taking. So you can write down the, or you can do the literature review according to that particular, like you can set the and you can make the find out the literature on the connection of these two things. And that perspective you can also make a table of review of literature, where you are classifying that on the gender and customer satisfaction, these many studies I have taken into my research, for example. So whenever we are presenting our data, while we are giving any presentation in the conferences, or I must say a thesis presentation, main viva presentation, so this looks very good that you have done something, you have actually identified something. And I must say that you also present your deep down knowledge about that, and you have actually done something you can show. Okay. Structure of a review literature, I must say that as such there is no pattern of anything, but yes, there should be something which every literature review should include. One, introduction about whatever the title that particular author has taken, what methods that he has followed, something about the findings and discussion, and what has been concluded. And you have to cite, you have to give the reference of that. So these 4 or 5 things should be there while we are writing any of the review literature. Means, for example, so and so has given the study in this year, this was the title, what they have method, research methods they have followed. For example, this was the sample size, this was the sample design, and sampling method they have followed, this test they have applied, and then they have done analysis on this is how they have collected data, and finally this was the result, and they have concluded like this. So the whole thing, the story kind of thing should be there. And who was the author, which was the year, in which journal it has been published, what was the title, what was the page number or something. This should be there in the reference list, as you already must be knowing. And this, there is one session specifically in this particular FDP which is going to tell you about the referencing, compilation of the references and bibliography. So you will get the idea how to write the references for the books, for the theses, for the articles, what should be the APA styling of writing the review of literature, references and everything, like how it should be managed. So that you are going to learn in this FDP. So I'm not focusing on this right now. So this should be the structure of review of literature. So this is in detail, I have already told you. Type of review of literature, there can be 4 types, there can be multiple types, but these are the 4 major things. One is traditional or narrative review of literature, as I have already just mentioned, that you have to mention the title, the body, the methods, the analysis, what has been concluded. So generally we are writing and summarizing the anybody's work, and writing the, so that we can
Excuse
conclude
me,
this, right?
ma'am.
So yes. Is it
There are
okay?
some
Just a
slides, so
minute.
please show them.
Just a minute.
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
be sharing then.
Okay, now we can see it. Thank you so much.
Okay, I think I'll be resharing because maybe this will.
Again, it's not visible.
Yeah. Now, is it visible?
No, not yet.
No. Isn't it visible to anyone?
Actually,
Visible, visible.
I can see it, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
yes, yes,
Visible.
visible.
Yes, it is
Yes,
visible.
ma'am. Yes.
So, whoever is having the problem, please log out and log in again.
Okay, okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, there you might be having some network issue. Yeah.
Okay.
So, as I was talking about types of review literature, one is traditional or narrative, as I have told you. So, this was journal thing which the way review of literature can be done. Second one is systematic review of literature. So, again, it is also the same traditional literature review, but we are using all type of published and unpublished studies about the particular topic. Also, we are also defining in a deeper way, and we are using more and more literatures. We are not just writing very few, we are writing as many as we can take. We are doing systematically and following some defined approach for doing it. As I was suggesting that, coming out with the results, and how we are finding it out, that we are also comparing with different variables and everything. Then meta analysis and meta synthesis. There are two types more which I should tell you. In this, whatever what happens, like whenever you are taking large quantitative findings, so when quantitative data is involved, meta analysis needs to be done. When we are taking qualitative studies, multiple similar types of qualitative studies, meta synthesis kind of a study should be there done. When there are non-statistical method or qualitative studies are there, so meta synthesis. And when we are using large quantitative data, so meta synthesis process should be done. In general, most of the time we are using traditional way of writing it. So that's not the problem. You just have to taken into the consideration that all the aspects should be covered. Then next one is steps of review of literature. First of all, you have to select a topic. It can be a rough one, but yes, you have to select something. Then search the literature, as many as you can search, as much as you can search or download or study. Develop the argument, then survey the literature, and then you have to find out, criticize the or critique the literature, that what is right, what is wrong, what needs to be considered, what should not be. Everything needs to be done, and then you have to write the review. So simply you can collect the data as much as you can, then you can start reading one by one. There are various researchers who are doing one more way of writing review of literature and referencing, that they are managing one excel sheet. So they are making different columns of carrying one thing, that what is, who is the author, then what is the year of study, what is the year origin of the study or the country of the study, then what is the title of that study, then what was the method, what methods has been followed, what test has been applied, and what method was applied for the analysis and collect the data, then what were the findings, and finally, if they have, the referencing can be done. So this is how they are studying. So as many studies they are downloading or studying, they are putting them in this particular format, so that they can also have a data, that this I have concluded this, so they can filter it, they can use it anytime. So this is also, you can manage your data while you are doing any research paper or thesis. Then how to conclude the research review of literature. Summarize ideas, conflicts, themes, history, chronological order, periods, as whatever you want. Like I want to summarize it in a way that first 2020, 2001 to 2010, 2011 to 20, every 10 years I want to do it. So this is how you can do. Relate your thesis with your work reported in the literature. Also, this can be done. Then point out the gap. As I have already mentioned, research gap should be done. Then this summary helps you to understand the next step. So transition to the next chapter by providing a reason why this work is being done and how. So review of literature gives you idea about what is the next step. So this should be, shown into this particular review of literature, and summary of the chapter can be written. Now, length of the literature review. Generally, people ask how many pages we should write in the thesis of literature review, in the research paper of the. So there is no page limit of anything, right? That you should write only 5 pages or 6 pages. It's all about how much your topic needing it, like how much is required. So as a part of, in general, I'm just giving you just a normal idea that if it is a PhD or MSc dissertation or thesis, it should be as comprehensive you can do about that particular topic. As much as you can cover, do it. If you're writing a proposal or project, it should cover different, it should be comprehensive, but it should cover only the very specific idea or aspects about your particular proposal or a project, whatever that title it is having. Then if you are talking about the research report or research paper, the literature review covers the major work, only the very specific related to your study and your variables. So three types of literature review length we can decide that there is no number one, two, three, four, but yes, as much as required in the thesis, as much as you can get in the proposal, little narrow down. You have to cover the different aspect, and in the research paper, you should be very, very specific on it. So some points can be remembered that it must be written in a formal language, in academic style. It should be very clear and concise. Then it should always aim to complete your objectives. Your biases should not be there. It should not be consistent, inconsistent. I mean, it should have a consistency, right? Then also, you should, whenever you are writing or introducing someone else's work or their opinion, you should not say that says, they say it, or something like. You should say that you should write they argue, they claims, or they states, because they have done it. Okay. So your literature review should present your synthesis of previous research, and it should lay the foundation for understanding your research and appreciating its value. And the last thing which I would like to focus on, that is avoid the plagiarism, as I have already mentioned in the beginning, and we are also having one session on all this. So I'm not going in detail, but I'm telling you that you should always try to avoid plagiarism of your sources. Always separate your source opinions from your hypothesis, and also make consistent references the literature you are referring to. Means you should always give the references that you have taken this. For example, if you are wearing somebody's dress, you can say that that person, this dress is from, it belongs to that person. If you are copying the design of someone and saying it is yours, so that is wrong. Okay. If you are mentioning their name, then you can use it. Okay, but in your own way. When you are doing your reading, or you're making a notes, it might be an idea, use different colors, and you can distinguish it from different ideas. You can write it in your way, and so that it can be different from others work. So that's it from my side. Now I would like to have question answer session. If somebody is having any doubt, they can ask me, and they can we can discuss about it.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, I just want to ask, in literature review, can we copy a paragraph or sentence from other resources, and then we may put it in literature review, and after that we may cite it? So can we do this, like taking the paragraph exactly as it is the same, or should we paraphrase it?
You should paraphrase it. You should read it. You should understand it, and you should write in your own language. But still, because you have taken that person's idea or researcher's idea, so that is why you should mention their name.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Any other doubt? Anybody else is having any other question?
Hello, ma.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I don't know if you could please shed more light on the various approaches to literature review. You mentioned using geographical area and narrowing down, but I didn't get the other approaches you mentioned because I wasn't viewing your slides when you were making that explanation. I don't know
You
if you could
can,
use the slides to explain that approach, different approaches again.
yes, you can use your different variables. You can use different perspective, like global perspective, Indian perspective, your state perspective, any country's perspective. This how it can be done. You can use with the time perspective. You can also connect it with different theme, one variable with the another variable. Anything can be done, like whatever is your choice, because it is your study, so you can do it in your way.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any other question?
Sorry, ma, I have another question regarding the duration. I had some people quote that you can't quote more than 10 years back from your present. Is it a fixed rule that you cannot do a review of literature with references that are more than 10 years old,
No, I think
or is it
you should
permitted
do it
to?
manually because you know your study very well. So you should search the data and you should concise it as per your choice.
No, my question is whether we can go beyond 10 years backwards, or within the last 10 years only. Whether we can cite or use review of literature that are more than 10 years old, like maybe 2010, 2009,
No,
2008. Is it a rule that it must not go beyond
no,
10
no,
years
no rules. See,
old?
I was just giving you an example. If you think that you cannot obviously use the data of 40, 50 years if that particular topic has been explored multiple times or something like that. In that case, you can say that if you want, you can use 5 years data, 10 years data. If you are not satisfied with the results or things which you are getting, or research gap you are not able to identify, in that case what you can do, you can also go for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever you want. That is all the choice.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any other question? Any other question? Thank you so much, everyone. If you are having any doubt, you can contact Team Research Foundation of India. On their mail ID, you can send the questions. We can resolve it. And if you're having doubt, we can help you in it all the way. Thank you. Thank you so much.